And welcome into the first ever edition of Weekend at Bookies. I am Glenn Clark. He is Paul Valley. It's all brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Coming up on the first ever edition of the program, we are going to catch up with Bet Prep's Brad Feinberg. We'll take a look at the fine lines for this week as far as the NCAA tournament, the conference tournaments, the NBA are concerned. And here joining us in just a minute, our buddy Andrew Stecca, who will offer us his stats and figures for the week. I know he's big into golf and soccer, maybe helping us find some money to be made in those areas. We'll be doing Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. Of course, on Tuesdays at 11:40, we bring you Simply the Bets. Now on Thursdays, as an extension of Glenn Clark Radio, you can tune in for Weekend at Bookies. I did not have a great night last night, admittedly. I can't lie to you guys. I struggled. I should have. You know what I'm really mad at myself about is I didn't bet the Suns. I like Navy and the points. I didn't like them to win. I liked them in the points, and I certainly liked it a lot when they rallied back within 6 in the second half, the number being 7.5, but just wasn't meant to be. So it was a rough night for me. I'm trying to get some action back. I love betting tennis. It's my favorite thing, so Indian Wells has given me some opportunities to do that. Tennis is one of the sports where I do sometimes encourage you to consider betting favorites just because there's only 2 options. Like, it's a little bit different than it is when you get to other sports. I do sometimes find myself betting favorites a bit more often in tennis. Like, for example, I did put some money on Naomi Osaka today against Sloane Stephens. All right, joining us now. He had a big hit last week when he was with us. He'll be with us every Thursday on Weekend at Bookies to help us with some stats and figures. He is our friend, Mr. Andrew Stecca, and he's with us now. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Glenn. How are you?
You actually won me some money. I decided to take your play on Man City, Man U. That was a nice little winner for me on Sunday. Thank you for that, sir.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Obviously, City is running rampant through the Premier League once again, and they did a job over Manchester United. We're going to go back to soccer a little bit later today, but that's not even first on my list.
What?
For this week?
What? All right. So the deal is going to be you give me 4 plays every week, and you've done a little bit of work. You're presenting some stats and figures because I'm very clever about why these are your plays for the week. So let's not waste any time. Andrew Stecca, what is your first play this week?
Well, let's start out in the Big Ten tournament, and I hate to do it, but I'm going to take Michigan State minus the 2 points.
I don't know why you would hate to do that.
Obviously, these teams just met on Sunday. Michigan State beat Maryland by 10. Now that was on their home floor. You turn around, and they're playing on a neutral court now, and the line is only 2. And to me, that line should be closer to probably 5 or 6 even on a neutral court. So I like Michigan State to cover the short number. Michigan State, all they really kind of have to do is limit Maryland's 3-point shooting. And when you're talking about a team like Maryland going into a neutral court, a new building, I can't see them immediately getting hot to start off this Big Ten tournament. And that's the way I'm leaning on that one. It's Michigan State minus 2 right now.
All right, so the only retort I have, and I can't create this originally, this was from Patrick Stevens earlier in the week. Here are their results the last time that Michigan State has played away from the Breslin Center. Last Thursday, they lost at Ohio State. Last Tuesday, they lost at Michigan. On February 22nd, they lost at Iowa. On February 15th, they lost at Penn State. On February 5th, they lost at Rutgers. The last time they won a game away from the Breslin Center just so happens to be at Maryland back on February 1st. But they are definitely a different team. In calendar 2021, they have won 2 games away from the Breslin Center. And frankly, they weren't much better before that. So that's the only retort that I would have related to picking Michigan State to cover that number.
Yeah, and the only thing I can say back to that, and I feel that, the only thing I can say back to that is Tom Izzo in the month of March.
I understand.
That is just the way that I feel. And look, I would love for Maryland to be in a better place right now, but I just don't see them being able to get the job done. And again, it's the line to me. 2 points does not seem like enough to get me to bite on Maryland.
I get it. I certainly could not have any comfort in betting on Maryland. I agree with you on that point. Now, of course, we also never know when it's just going to be the type of night in which, for whatever reason, Fats Russell and Eric Ayala kind of go off, and who knows. But I get it. I certainly understand why that would be your first play. All right.
I'm going to stay in the Big Ten tournament.
Stetson Figures with Andrew Stetka. Yes, number 2.
Later on, after Maryland, Michigan State, you got Penn State taking on Ohio State. I like the underdog in this game. Penn State is getting 5. Penn State is 11-6 against the spread as an underdog this season.
Ooh!
And they've got wins over teams like Indiana, Rutgers, Iowa, and that Michigan State team that we were just talking about. And Ohio State, we've kind of seen them in the last few weeks. They've sputtered. They've lost 3 or 4 coming down the stretch. I still think they're a very good team, but if I'm getting 5 with Penn State, I really like them as a dog.
Yeah, they've been kind of a mess of late. I mean, to the point where Maryland's win over them doesn't really even look all that impressive any longer. I don't blame you for that. I'm certainly not in love with Penn State, and then there's the tricky part of it, which is one of these teams had to play in the. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not. It's far be it for me to have any faith in Penn State basketball at any point, but I get it. What you're really saying is there's no reason to have faith in Ohio State basketball at the moment, and I can't argue with that point whatsoever. So I might even toss a couple of bucks that way myself, Andrew Stetka.
The best way I can describe Penn State is plucky. I mean, they spread out their scoring. They don't rely on just 1 or 2 guys, and they can be pretty good on the boards as well, and that's something that you're going to have to do in order to compete with Ohio State. So that's my second play. Penn
All right,
State +5 over Ohio State in the Big Ten tournament tonight. Going to switch over to the NBA. Two really fun NBA games on the slate tonight, and it's funny, the totals for those games have moved a bunch in the last kind of 12 hours. But I'm going to focus in on Denver getting 1.5 points at home over Golden State. Now, Denver just played last night. Golden State's going to have the rest advantage. That's why they are a home dog. But Nikola Jokic is just playing so well right now. The dude is almost near a triple-double every night.
Seriously regret throwing my money at John Morant instead of Jokic for my MVP.
Yeah,
Seriously regret that.
Feeling a little bit of that as well. I'm not going to lie to you. That is certainly the case. But Denver is a sneaky team. The West is so interesting. I know you've been watching your Suns, and they continue to win games despite not having Chris Paul. They're kind of getting themselves back on track. The Warriors are in that role. Memphis is out there. Denver and Utah are all everyone's kind of roaming right now, and I'm so interested to see who emerges from this group. It's really, the East it seems wide open, but the West you can really narrow down to 3, 4, maybe 5 teams that who's going to challenge the Suns and maybe even the Warriors. But Denver at home in this spot, Golden State's still without Draymond Green. People forget, and they've kind of been able to right the ship a little bit, but they're still not quite where they want to be.
They did rest everybody the other night in order to sort of get ready for this game. Like, they kind of seem to have targeted this game. That's the one thing that kind of concerns me about this.
Yeah, I really like Denver in this spot, and just the way that Jokic is playing, I feel like he can take over a game, and the fact that you're getting a little bit of points at home with Denver, give me the Nuggets plus the 1.5.
Hey, John from Little Rock hops in and says that the Maryland line is a rat line and you should hammer Maryland. I actually disagree, and I know that this is when something's a stink line, you got to play it because somebody knows something that you don't know. I'm going to disagree on this one. I think that this line is a reflection of Michigan State and what we were just talking about a second ago and how they've been awful outside of East Lansing. I don't think this is a stink line. I think this is a Maryland team that's played a little bit better and a Michigan State team that hasn't played all that well. And I think on a neutral floor, I actually think the line is about right. I still agree with Stetka and his pick. I just don't think this is a stink line that shows you have to bet Maryland because clearly there's something there that we don't know about that someone else does. I'm not in agreement on that.
Yeah, I think if you're taking the two teams just based on talent, the line should probably be closer to 5. And the fact that it's only 2, that gives me all the incentive I need.
That's the rat line argument. The rat line argument is when the line doesn't make sense, it's because somebody knows something that you don't know. And when that's the case, you got to embrace the side of it that doesn't make sense. You say it makes no sense at all that Maryland's only a 2.5-point dog against Michigan State. Somebody knows something about Michigan State. Somebody knows about turmoil there, or somebody who's not going to play, or something along those lines. There's someone somewhere that's smarter than I am. I have to accept it, and I just got to hammer Maryland because of it. I just don't. I'm just not in agreement. I think we are higher on Michigan State because it's Tom Izzo and the tradition of Michigan State than what Michigan State has actually been of late. And I think of late, these two teams, this is about right for a neutral site game. So I just don't. It's the stink line argument that I'm not agreeing with.
There's no question about it. My final pick of the week, we're going to go back to the Premier League and put together a little mini parlay, just like we did last week with Manchester City beating Manchester United. And unfortunately, I'm going to go back against Manchester United. The big game of the Premier League weekend is the team that that I support, Tottenham Hotspur, travel up to Old Trafford to take on
I can't wait.
Manchester United.
This is my Super Bowl, frankly, Andrew Stecca.
Of course. Well, it is a really, really big game in terms of the Premier League season. Both these teams are chasing the top 4 places, which will get you into the Champions League for next year. And you got to go back. There's a little bit of history involving this matchup right now because back in October, late October, these two teams met in North London at Spurs, and it was deemed El Sacco. Both managers were in turmoil, and the team that lost that game was almost surefire going to fire their manager. And that is exactly what played out. Manchester United beat Tottenham 3-0 in that match, and a few days later, Tottenham sacked their manager, Nuno Espirito Santo, and then hired Antonio Conte. And they've kind of started to right the ship since doing so. United, on the other hand, they continued to kind of flounder a little bit despite beating Tottenham back in October. And then they fired their manager, but they didn't get to Conte in time. He had already gone to Spurs. So now of course, you know this.
Seriously, right?
So, Spurs go up to Old Trafford this weekend. They've been in up and down form, but they're 50 to either win or draw. So they just need to get a point. And both these teams really do struggle kind of from a defensive standpoint, especially when they play each other. As I mentioned, 3 goals were scored in the previous game. Spurs have actually won 2 of their last 3 going away to Old Trafford. They won 6-1 and 3-0 in 2 of those last 3. So I'm going to take over the 1.5 goals, which is minus 460. But if you pair those two things together, you can get Tottenham to win or draw and over 1.5 goals at plus money at plus 114. So that's what I'm going to take.
All right. So those are Andrew Stecca's stats and figures. If you want to get down to the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, throw a few bucks on those. And what time is that match? That match? That's an afternoon match. That's not a morning match, right? On Saturday.
Yeah, I believe it's. I want to say it's 12:30 Eastern on Saturday.
I only say that because if you guys want to bet those morning matches, you always have to remember that the 24/7 betting kiosks are there at the FanDuel Sportsbook. So even if what you're wanting to bet on is at an odd hour, it does not matter that the sportsbook is technically not open. The betting kiosks are still there for you to get those bets in. But that particular match is yes, it's a 12:30 match on Saturday. So that would be, you can go to the betting window as well for that one in particular. John also wants to know, he says he loves Liverpool in a clean sheet. What do you think about that?
Playing Brighton, yeah. I mean, Brighton's a good team. They can run, but Liverpool is always a good bet. John knows. John and I were going back and forth a little bit on Twitter earlier this week. Liverpool is the one team chasing Manchester City for the Premier League right now. They're going to have to continue to get those points if they want to catch City. Liverpool's always a pretty good bet. I'm not 100% sold on the clean sheet, but I would certainly like Liverpool to win that match against Brighton.
All right, very good. At Astecca on Twitter is how you follow him. He'll be joining us every time we do Weekend at Bookies to offer us his plays, his stats and figures. No, we're not calling it Stets Bets because I want stats and figures. I want a little info more than just the picks. I want a little thought process as to why they make sense. All right, buddy. Should we bet on baseball being played before May 1st?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Wow.
I am for the first time. There's a thought creeping into my mind that there may not be baseball this year.
Yeah.
It's a small percentage, but that is like starting to become a little bit more real for me as the days go on.
Yikes! All right, buddy. Appreciate you. We will talk to you in 2 weeks. All right.
All right. Cheers.
Andrew Steck joining us, Stetson Figures, here on Weekend at Bookies. Just a quick reminder that you should know the risks and have a plan before you start gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org. Couple of things before we get to a break, and we're going to have Brad Feinberg join us with Fines Lines here in just a minute. Always a couple of things that I try to look at when I consider some of the plays that I'm going to make. And right now, you can go to the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, and there are still some conference tournament, the major conference tournaments still haven't gotten underway. I have told you already this week that I, much like a lot of others, love Memphis to win the American. All over Memphis. That number is still sitting at plus 350. There is still money to be made on Memphis to win the AAC. That's one that I love. Houston's still the favorite at minus 145. I've had a couple people argue that it's worth sprinkling some money on North Carolina in the AACC tournament. I'm going to disagree. As I've said before, after what happened, I might feel differently about that if what happened didn't happen. But after what happened, I am 1,000% convinced that it's going to be very tough to get a call and that the league as a whole is very much inclined to see Duke win the ACC championship to try to make up for not getting the moment last week. And I get it. I'm not saying it's conspiracy. I'm not saying that they're going to throw games. Just saying that I think it will be more difficult even than it was last week for North Carolina to be able to beat Duke again. So I'm probably, you want to sprinkle a couple bucks on it for the sake of sprinkling a couple of bucks because it's $6.50. I get it. I'm going to choose not to do that myself. When we come back in, Brad Feinberg is going to join us. We'll talk more about conference tournaments. We'll talk more about the NCAA tournament. We'll talk more about some NBA bets. Of course, Brad is with Bet Prep, and he will give us some thoughts. It's what we should need to know as we head into the weekend. This is Weekend at Bookies, brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Glory Days Grill's St. Patrick's menu is now in full swing, and it's their most popular seasonal menu all year. New in 2022 are their smoky thigh wings with Guinness grilling sauce, a house-made Guinness barbecue sauce. Fan favorites also include their corned beef and cabbage, the shepherd's pie with Guinness braised ground beef, the Glory Days Reuben, and the Rachel. Enjoy a pint of Guinness or Guinness Baltimore Blonde. The St. Patrick's menu is available for the whole month of March. Come in for great food, cold beer, and basketball. Find out more about Glory Days Grill and get your order in online at glorydaysgrill.com.
The newest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, we celebrate the 20th anniversary of Maryland men's basketball's 2002 NCAA Tournament Championship, as Gary Williams reflects on how the program rose from the ashes of NCAA sanctions to the pinnacle of the sport, and why his perspective of the title run has changed now 2 decades later. Plus, Juan Dixon, Lonnie Baxter, and the rest of the team relive the moments that ultimately led them to cutting down the nets in Atlanta. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farms stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a wide range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Toyota to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
If you miss anything, don't forget that you can find whole shows later on Spotify, Apple, or Amazon Podcasts. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
All right, back in here on Weekend at Bookies, the inaugural episode of the program. It's brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. And don't forget, that's where we will be. I'm going to be there Sunday from 3 to 7 with Rodney Elliott, hanging out for the Big Ten Championship game, as well as the NCAA Tournament Selection Show. And then I will be back next Friday. I don't know this with certainty. I can't say for sure who is going to be joining me. But next Friday, I will be back there in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel from 12 to 4 for NCAA Tournament first-round games. So this Sunday, 3 to 7 with Rodney Elliott. Next Friday, 12 to 4, hanging out, watching games, and we'll have great giveaways, great prizes. We literally had fire sticks that we were giving away the last time. We will give you advice. We will give you thoughts, try to help you win some money as you're watching the games. It's just an incredible atmosphere for hanging out and watching games, and I would still encourage you that if you have not reserved your spot just yet, you should probably do that. I would email events@sportssocialmd.com right now, events@sportssocialmd.com, in order to guarantee your table, guarantee your reclining chair, whatever it is. I would do that right now. Email events@sportssocialmd.com in order to guarantee your spot for the NCAA tournament, or even for this Sunday, as they are expecting massive crowds. There is always room. There is standing room, there's bar space, there's things like that. But if you want to bring some folks out and make sure you have a table, or make sure you've got comfy chairs, whatever it is for hanging out, camping out, and watching basketball over the course of the next couple of weeks, then the place to do that would be the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, and you should be emailing them events@sportssocialmd.com in order to guarantee your spot. All right. With that said, we're going to get to Brad Feinberg here in just 1 second. I told you earlier in the day, or earlier in the show, that I'm playing some tennis. Playing a few favorites today. I really do like Mackie McDonald. Fucsovics is one of those tricky veterans that can kind of do a lot of things. But Mackie McDonald's the guy that I really kind of love today. Minus 131. Really feeling that. I'm playing some money on him just to win today. That's a play for me. Of course, don't forget you can always find the show on YouTube, youtube.com/PressBoxOnline, as well as Facebook, facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Joining us now here on Weekend at Bookies, we welcome in the man who's going to show us the fine lines. He is from Bet Prep. He is Brad Feinberg, and he's with us now here on Weekend at Bookies. Brad, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing very well, my friend. Good to be on. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. Looking forward to chatting with you more often, and really looking forward to trying to win some money. Let me just start with this, Brad. We are dealing with conference tournament weekend and the selection show, and then, of course, we get right into the heat of the NCAA tournament. What's the best advice that you would have for someone that has maybe never bet? For example, in the state of Maryland, it's the first year where we've had legal sports betting going into an NCAA tournament. So for someone that's never done it before, that wants to go hang out in the FanDuel Sportsbook, wants to make bets for a few days next weekend, what's the best advice that you give them about betting the tournaments?
A couple of things I would say. First of all, like for especially the championship games, which are going to be this Sunday, these games tend to go under the totals. Reason being, you get extra effort, max effort, especially in the defensive end, balls to the wall, so to speak, where it's harder to score in these games because the effort level is so hard because you're not holding anything back, right? This is it. And so I tend to look for unders in games like this. And also, look, once the NCAA tournament starts, if you like an underdog especially, let's suppose a big team is playing like a Duke or someone like that, right? A team that everyone wants to bet on, or a Kentucky. You can picture the teams I'm talking about. Everyone and their grandmother, every recreational bettor, and in games like this, when the tournament starts, the recreational bettors can actually really trump the pro bettors because there's so many of them, right? Like the actual money can be overwhelming because there's so many of these $50, $100 bettors. It adds up to the people who are betting thousands, but there's so many people who want to bet the NCAA tournament. And what are they going to do? They're going to bet the favorite. They don't care if the line's -6, -7. They're not going to be price sensitive, and they're just going to bet, especially those favorites, because that's their comfort food, so to speak. So I would say what I like to do is a lot of times I make my own numbers, what I think each game should be, and come closer to tip-off, I will look to bet the underdog, fading the quote-unquote blue blood team.
It's interesting.
Because I'll find the closer the game starts to tip-off, I usually get an extra half point or a point. And you may say, what's the difference between that extra half point and a point? The answer is everything.
Oh, yeah, a lot, right. Yeah,
the answer is everything, because that extra half point or a point is the difference between maybe a 52% winning bet to a 55% winning bet. And if for everyone listening out there, if you win 55% of your games, you can retire and be
no question.
A gazillionaire.
Yeah, you're killing it. That's really interesting, the idea of there being inflated lines. You're more likely to get an inflated line in the NCAA tournament than you would, say, a Morgan State, South Carolina State game tonight.
Exactly.
The recreational bettors is not going to be a part of. It's something I hadn't thought about at all. That's great advice, Brad. All right, so is there anything right now when you look at the conference tournament landscape, is there anything that jumps out at you that you say, this is really enticing to me, and am I crazy to want to hammer Memphis to win the AAC at this point, given how well they've played over the last few weeks?
It's funny. We did not talk. We did not talk before this interview, and the bets. I made 2 conference tournament bets, and one of them is Memphis. I actually bet both in this conference. Yeah, I took Memphis plus 400 to win the conference. Memphis has played really, really well as of recently. The only dud they had was against SMU in late February, but this team has been terrific. They've been playing the best they've played all year, in my opinion. And look, I like their bracket also. I like their draw. They didn't have to, I think that they're better than SMU. I think that is a game that they will have a very, good chance of winning. In Houston, they've already beaten twice. Now, but it's interesting. The other team I did take, believe it or not, and they were getting 40-1 odds, and it's to win this same conference. I took Wichita State.
Wow.
And it's interesting. They've lost a bunch of close games this year. Wichita State. Again, am I picking them to win this conference tournament? Absolutely not. But I'm always want to put in bets that I think are going to lose if I think there's some value there. To me, 40-1 odds. When I did the math on it, I thought 40-1 was about the number that it should be, assuming there was no upsets. But upsets, and SMU can lose. Memphis could lose. And if I got in there someone else, those odds would go way less than 40-1. Again, I'm not saying go huge on it. 40-1, it translates to a 2.5% chance.
Right.
I'm not expecting it to win, but I actually think Wichita State has actually been they've lost again. They've lost a lot of tight games, and I think they're a little bit better than their record indicates. Again, I'm not expecting it to cash, but with those odds, again, if they had won an extra 4 or 5 games, which they very easily could have, I think those odds would have been closer to like maybe 15-1, 12-1. But because we're seeing a 6-9 in conference record and only a 15-12 overall record, maybe a little value there. But I do think Memphis is the most likely winner. I find it strange that Houston is continuing to get all the premium. Houston, with all the injuries they've had,
Right.
this may have been a great team before the year started, right? But then they lose Sasser, which to me was just a death blow, quite honestly, for this team. So that is the conference where I actually saw the most value, and you actually said one of the teams.
I am so happy. It makes me feel smarter, Brad Feinberg. And I am, or it might be bad news for you. I'm not sure which way.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, I may have to change my pick
right. No doubt about it. Brad Feinberg is with us. Fines Lines here on Weekend at Bookies, brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Brad, anything else as far as conference tournaments that it's even worth looking at for you, or you want to move on and do some NBA stuff?
We move on for the actual winning of the conference. Well, I'll tell you a bet I did put in yesterday. And usually, let me explain this. Usually, people always like to ask me and I specialize in the futures.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And that's what I do. But to be honest, the hold in the NCAA future pool is usually so high. When I mean hold, hold means they should pay out like 100. Every team, if let's say there was 4 teams in the tournament, if every team was dead even, every team should be 3-1 odds, right? 1 out of 4 chance. It should add up to 25%, 25%, 25,
Sure.
totaling 100. For the NCAA tournament championship, usually the hold, instead of being 100, will literally be to like closer to 200. So they're really ripping you off. And I mean ripping you off, but people like to do it. It's something they like to do. But the hold is anywhere usually between 50 and 80%, which is pretty high. But there is a team that I did bet yesterday just because I think this team is – look, they've had injuries, but I think they're actually finally getting healthy now. And this was a team that's a veteran team that was preseason top 5 that I think is a little under the radar is UCLA, 30-1. Look, I'll be honest. I think UCLA, whoever they play, whether it's – I know Gonzaga smoked them earlier, but if they were to play in Arizona, Kentucky, a Duke, a Baylor, whoever you want to say, I think they absolutely can beat those teams. I think this team is going to get a good seed, and I think they could beat anyone. I don't think they're any worse than any of these teams. I really don't in my power ratings.
Interesting.
Especially now that Juzang is back. That's a team, and again, 30-1 is a pretty nice price for a team that I think shouldn't be more like a 3-point dog in any of these games, in my opinion. So I like UCLA.
I like that. I have to admit, I'm a sucker, and I threw a couple bucks on Villanova about a week ago.
Villanova was the other team I was looking at, but the odds just aren't quite high. They're 25-1.
Right.
Again, but that's a perfect – and then they played earlier this year. It was a 50-50 game. UCLA, I watched them beat them in overtime. Villanova actually should have won that game. But Villanova, that's where I live. I just don't know if they quite have enough Villanova, but I mean, they're obviously a good team, and Jay Wright is a great coach. But those are the kind of bets I'd be looking for. I'm not looking to take Kentucky at 7-1. I'm not looking to take Arizona at 6-1. I'm not looking to take Gonzaga at plus 350. Does that mean they're not the best teams? No, I'm not saying that. But at those odds, I don't think there's any way that Gonzaga wins the tournament once at every 4.5 times, or Arizona wins the tournament once out of 7 times. It's hard. There's so much parity, which is why for me, if that first digit really isn't a 3, which UCLA's is, it's hard for me to look at anyone because I think that so many teams really can win it.
All right, give me an NBA. There's a week NBA set. This is the problem with doing the show on Thursdays because of the TNT thing. We get the fewest NBA games available to us. But is there something that stands out to you NBA wise tonight?
Well, I did look, having watched the Sixers. I've lived in Philadelphia and really followed the Sixers very, very closely. It's interesting since James Harden got to this team. He really is. You're going to laugh at it. He almost looks like he's Chris Paul out there. And what I mean by that is he's really been looking to pass, and that has really been, to me, and he's been amazing at it. Sixers offensive efficiency when he's been there has been through the roof. Maxi's really taken off, and Embiid's been playing incredible. I took over 10.5 assists minus a quarter today. He's gone over that 5 of the 6 games, I think it is, or 4 of the 5 games. He's averaging around closer to 12 assists a game. Again, we're not going to get huge edges in any of these bets. We're trying to find anything that's profitable. I do think that James Harden goes over 10.5 assists at least 60% of the time. If you're laying minus 125, that's a profitable wager. And I do think Harden is going to do that. And then talking about odds to win the conference, the Sixers are plus 340. And I've been betting them the time since they got Harden. There was better numbers available previously, but we're talking what's today's out there. And they're saying there's only about a 22% chance that they go to the conference finals based on a plus 340 price. To me, I think they're the most likely winner of the Eastern Conference. I think they have a true dominant starting lineup. I don't think any team has a starting lineup in the East they can match up with them. The Nets are getting a ton of premium still. I'm going to make them prove it to me. Kyrie Irving, is he going to play every single home game in the postseason? I don't know what's going to happen with that. I think Embiid and Maxey and Harden and Thibault and Tobias Harris reminds me of what happened with the Rams. This team went all in. I think they're going to be tough to beat. And look, I'm going to say it. Look, in the West, there's teams that you could take, but I still think the Suns are the most likely winner, assuming Chris Paul comes back.
Yeah.
Plus 185. And again, it's not a huge price where you can take plus 450 to win the title. I love the Suns team. I mean, to me, they don't really have any weaknesses. It's a winning culture now, a winning organization. They have the 3-and-D players like Jay Crowder and Mikal Bridges. They have the solid big and Ayton, and then they have the two superstars in Paul and of course Devin Booker.
Yeah.
And to me, I just think they're going to be a really tough team to beat. Golden State, to me, is getting a lot of premium. I'm not so sure that Draymond Green's going to come back, and if he does, if he's going to be healthy, I think the Suns are still undervalued at plus 180 to win the West and plus 450 to win the title.
Yeah, but you don't know, Brad, I'm actually a massive Phoenix Suns fan because I spent 3 years working out there with D'Antoni and Stoudemire and Marion.
Oh, I did not know that.
Brother, I fell in love. You know, in Baltimore, we don't have a team, right? So, you know, I was a basketball fan, but then I was there every night watching them score 130 points a game, and I was just like,
oh, that was the best era. Oh my God, that was amazing.
And then I had to put up with a lot as a Suns fan over the years. It wasn't a lot of fun.
The San Antonio lost the Robert Horry thing, right? I mean, that was people listening. If I don't remember that, but that was awful. The Suns had the best team that year.
Yep.
They went off the bench. Were they up 2-0 in the series?
They were up. I want to say they were up 2-1 at that point, if I remember.
Yeah, and then they lost the game, and then someone came off the bench, and then they lost Game 6 on the road in a fight, and it changed the whole series. But yeah, that was one of the great what ifs was Phoenix, doing it. But I think this year, I think Phoenix and Philadelphia would be an incredible series, and I think those are the two best teams this year. We will see if I'm right, but I think there's still value in both those teams.
And it would give me the opportunity to get up and watch some games, and I like everything about that. All right, Brad, for people that don't know about Bet Prep, what should they know? What can you tell them?
I got to tell you something. It's funny, and I know people listening to the show haven't heard me before probably, and I want to say this. I love Bet Prep. I work for the company, but the company changed my life, not to be overly dramatic, but it really did. What I really like to specialize in is prop bets. Like I said, for example, I gave the James Harden one, and I have different shows on betprep.com called Given Futures and Given Props. I did 155 for the NFL. I won 100 wins, 55 losses. I think so far in the NBA, I'm like 17. We just started at 17 wins and like 4 losses. And so I really specialize in the props. And what Bet Prep does is, which is tremendous, it made my research go from hours and hours and hours a day to closer to minutes. Because I'll give you an example. Like you can put in DeJounte Murray. If they make his over-under in rebounds 7.5, you can see in his last 60 games, he's 38 and 22 to the over. Oh, wow, there's probably value in taking that over. Or if his over-under is 9.5 rebounds, he's 41 and 19 to the under. Then there's value in taking his under. And you can put in his last 60 games, the last 10 games, the last 5 games, his last 26 games, whatever. And it also lets you do filters. How is a certain player, if you put in, for example, Booker, how's he doing without Chris Paul? How does it affect his assists? So many different things you can do on the site. And as a prop bettor, that's where we really find edge, right? That's where you can really, really make money because these lines that are posted for the games are so efficient. Mm-hmm. It's so hard to beat these lines on a game line, right? There's certain people who are talented enough to do it. That's not my specialty. But what I can beat is the futures and the props because the futures I find sometimes are slow, and the props I just feel like 94% of them or so are good, but maybe 5 or 6% are off, and I'm always searching for those 5 or 6%.
And you can, by the way, you can sign up for free, which is remarkable.
Oh, it's amazing. It's a great site. I think you guys just hear my voice. I'm just saying it because I like to help people, and it's free, and it's amazing, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing.
And I tell you, the first time you sign up, it's almost going to be too much information for you. Like you're going to look at me like, holy crap, what do I do with all this? But as you get more comfortable with it, what Brad's talking about, it's amazing. The type of information.
I really enjoy it. Yeah. I think it's a terrific site. It's helped me a ton. Again, it really, if you put in time and And again, being a prop better to me is far and away the best thing you can do. You can't lose if if you put time into being a prop better and you actually put your time into it. You will not lose. It's that simple. Betting games is hard. It's fun. I get it. People love to do it, but it's not easy. The props are way easier, and Bet Prep made my job 1,000 times easier, and it's fun. There's no one who will try it who will not like it. I can more or less say that for 100% fact.
At Brad's Best Bets on Twitter
Yes,
is
sir.
how you follow him. And then again, betprep.com. Brad, really looking forward to doing this with you more often. Appreciate you taking the time for us. Let's talk again here in the next couple of weeks, all right?
You got it, my friend. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Brad Feinberg, The Fine Lines, here on Weekend at Bookies, brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. And yeah, what an absolute asset BetPrep is for giving you as much possible information as you have before you dive in and make bets. And Brad makes a great point. By the way, those unders on Sunday, that's a really good thought. The other side of that, too, is that these are teams that have typically played at least 3 games in 3 days. And I know that the lines a lot of times reflect that. You'll get lower totals because of it. But still, between they're playing so many games in such a short amount of time, between how intense the games end up being, absolutely a solid point that unders are a pretty good play when it comes to those games. I'll be monitoring that Sunday in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. All right, we're going to wrap up every weekend at Bookies with Paul's preposterous prop. Paul is going to search. I was talking earlier in the week about the Calvin Ridley situation, and I said, this is why this is so weird when, like, the Mike Florios of the world are, you're literally advertising a product that your players can't use. That's not remotely true. NFL players can do whatever they want. They can go sign up. They can register for become a Live Rewards member in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, and they can bet on anything they would like except NFL games. They want to bet on hockey? They can do that. They want to bet on tennis? By all means. They can bet on snooker. And when I said that, I realized I didn't actually know what snooker was. But I realized you can bet on it. You can go right now to the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, and you can bet on snooker. Paul is going to search out something that you don't know anything about, but is going to attempt to tell you why it's a bet that you could make. Paul, what is your preposterous prop for us this week?
Okay, so I'm a fan of darts. I like to play darts, and once I get going, I get pretty good at it. So
it's also an electric sport to watch. Like, it is unreal, the atmosphere that they like. It's such a big deal over there that, like, I've never sat down and watched an entire competition, but, like, when people post the highlights on social media, the place goes bat-ass nuts over darts. It's wild, man. It's wild.
Well, Gary Anderson and Michael Smith face off at 2:10 this afternoon in Premier League darts.
It's kind of wild that Gary Anderson, after his NFL kicking career, has gotten in,
thing.
and Michael Smith, after his NFL reporting career, has chosen to do that. I feel like this should have gotten a little more attention, frankly.
Funny, when he was going for the World Championship, he didn't miss a bullseye all year until the championship game.
I don't know that. Of course I know that.
Just kidding. So they face off at Gary Anderson and Michael Smith. They face off at 2:10 this afternoon in Premier League darts. Gary Anderson.
What year was that? The Gary Anderson thing?
I think it was 98.
98. That sounds right, doesn't it? And it was Atlanta, correct?
Mm-hmm.
It was
he didn't miss a kick all year.
Minnesota
in the
and Atlanta, and it was in the Metrodome, and he had a kick to send him to the Super Bowl. Yep. That was Jeff George was the quarterback of that Vikings team.
No, it was Randall Cunningham.
It was Randall Cunningham. It was definitely. All I remember is I always think it was Dante Culpepper, but it wasn't actually Dante Culpepper.
He came around like 99
correct.
or 2000.
Correct.
So Gary Anderson is a former world #1 and a 2-time Professional Darts Corporation world champion who is currently ranked number 6 on the PDC World Rankings. Michael Smith is 20 years Anderson's junior. He was a 2013 PDC Under-21 world champion. And while he has won 8 titles on the PDC World Tour, he has yet to win a major title. He is currently ranked number 4 on the PDC World Rankings. So in darts, you have to get 501 points exactly to win. And the least amount of darts you can throw to accomplish the feat is 9 darts, commonly called a 9-dart finish or a 9-darter.
Mm-hmm.
Anderson has achieved a televised 9-darter 3 times, while Smith has done it once. Currently, you are getting plus 4,300. The one of them accomplishes the feat in their matchup today. That's a bet I'd be willing to put some money on.
Oh, like, really? Are you really betting this? You're gonna you would really do this?
I would do it. I feel like this guy Michael Smith is trying to make a name for himself. Gary Anderson is an accomplished darter.
This is a bold, preposterous prop to throw out there.
Can you imagine you put $100 down on plus 4,300 and somebody gets it on the first try?
43-1 odds is outstanding if that were to work out that way. But boy, that is a bold prop bet to throw out there.
Desperate times call for desperate measures.
All right, there you go. That's Paul's preposterous prop. When is that matchup?
2:10 this afternoon.
Got to race down to the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in order to get that in. We will see. We'll measure it. We're going to keep track of Paul's preposterous props. They don't always have to be 43-1. They can be. You can just pick somebody to win. I just want it to be an obscure sport. I don't want us to end up having like an 0-8 start to Paul's preposterous props.
I was going to go a little bit simpler, but when I saw plus 4,300 and when I saw what a 9-dart finisher was.
No, 9-dart finishes are I mean, again, in electric atmospheres, these places go bat-ass.
It's like bowling a 300, right? Is what I imagine.
It's way more electric than that because it happens so quickly.
The fact that these guys have both done it on national television, I think it'd be something that would be fun to put money on.
By the way, I was looking at some of these other props for it. Your first 3 darts to throw a 180, they almost assume that's going to happen because both yes and no are at negative money. It's so it's just sort of their way of saying it's 50-50.
Yeah, I saw that.
So if you're assuming that they're coming out of the chute that way, right? Like, I guess what you're really only betting on is how they do in their next 6 throws after that point. So it's interesting. That's very interesting. All right, very good. Thanks to Brad Feinberg. Thanks also to Andrew Stetka. We will be back. We might do an extra edition of Weekend at Bookies next week because of the NCAA tournament. We don't know yet. We'll make that decision, but for sure, if not, we'll be back within 2 weeks, and it'll be every other week for Weekend at Bookies. It has been